The question here concerns finding the number of tiles that it takes to tile a bathroom floor. And I'm going to show you two ways that you can go about doing this. First way is considering the number of rows of tiles and columns of tiles it would take to cover the floor. Now we've got a rectangular floor. It's 2.5 metres in one direction and it's 3.15 in the other direction. So let's draw ourselves a little plan of the floor. 2.5 metres, 3.15 metres. Now the tiles measure 200 millimetres by 200 millimetres, and one of the things I notice in this question, and it's quite important, is that the units used here are different from the units used here. So either we need to be thinking in metres or we need to be thinking in millimetres. Now I'm going to change it all to metres and think that way. 200 millimetres, change your metres, you divide by 1,000. So really it might have been easier for us if this was written as 0.2 metres times 0.2 metres. Then if I'm doing this, what I'm trying to do is I'm thinking of the number of rows of tiles. They're square tiles. I'm thinking about how many square tiles is it going to take in terms of rows and columns of tiles here on the floor. So I need to know, if I want to know how many rows of tiles, I need to know how many times does the tile divide into 2.5 metres. How many tiles can you fit down here and form rows of tiles in our room? So I want to divide 0.2 into 2.5, and that'll tell me how many rows of tiles that I need. So 2.5, how many 0.2s? I get 12.5. So in other words, you could fit 12.5 rows of tiles in your room here. Now I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually draw this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've got 12 rows of tiles there, and I guess a half row. So there are 12.5 rows of tiles. Now if we then have to work out how many tiles it takes to fit along here. So what I'm going to do, and that'll tell us how many columns of tiles. So I'm going to go 3.15 metres. How many times does 0.2 of a metre fit into that? So that will be 3.15 divided by 0.2. And I get 15.75. So I won't draw them all this time, but there are 15.75 columns of tiles. Now, if I was actually going to do this job, then I'm going to need 12 rows plus extra tiles, plus enough tiles here. It's really going to be 13 rows, isn't it? Because I'm going to need all these tiles and I'm going to need to cut them all. And the same with the columns of tiles here. I'm going to need 15.75. I'm actually going to need 16 columns of tiles. So 12.5 rows, it actually equals 13 by the time I've bought those extra tiles, some of which I'm going to cut bits off. And the same with the columns of tiles, 15.75, I'm actually going to end up with 16 columns of tiles. Some will be cut off. So in terms of our thing, we need 13 rows by 16 columns. (13 by 16). You need 208 tiles. Okay, we could do it another way. One way we could do it, the other way we could do it is to work out the area of the floor, work out the area of a tile, and divide one by the other. So let's work out the area of the floor. So it's 2.5 metres times by 3.15 metres. It's a rectangle, so its area is length times breadth. 2.5 times 3.15, 7.875 metres squared. Now what about the area of a tile? Now I want to get that in metres squared as well, and very important, if you're working this, we want everything to be worked in metres. Make sure we're using these dimensions here that we've got in metres. So each square tile measures 0.2 of a metre times 0.2 of a metre, which equals 0.04 metres squared. We want to find out how many tiles fit into the floor. How many times does this fit into that? We want to divide one by the other. 7.875 divided by 0.04 equals 196.87 tiles. Well, I suppose if we've just worked that, it'd be 197 tiles. You might notice we've got different answers, working it out this way and working it out this way. I guess the difference between those two answers amounts for the fact that in this question here, we took into account extra tiles that we would need because you didn't have a complete row. We allowed a whole extra tile for the end of this row where it's 12.5 rows of tiles, but we said we're going to need 13 to allow for that cutting of tiles. In this one here, we didn't really allow for the cutting of the tiles. So I guess this is a more realistic estimate if you're actually going to do the job. So I would probably go for the rows and columns, because it allows for that wastage when you cutting the tiles.